I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Michael Meadows. I work for First Day School Supplies, and I'm on our recruiting team. And then this is Brian.
I'm Brian. I'm the head of recruitment for First Day School Supplies.
And so when we reached out to your school about the career fair that's coming up, we kind of got on the phone and we started brainstorming. And we're like, hey, what if we came in a little bit early and kind of gave advice from the employer's point of view? And they agreed to let us come in and talk. So this is our first time doing this presentation too. So it's going to be interesting. And I kind of looked back to when I was in high school. And I remember when I went to college, I went to Ohio State for accounting. And I started going to career fairs and applying to jobs. I was kind of winging it. I had no idea what to expect. You see stuff in movies and how interviews go, and you hear all these questions that are going to get asked. And I remember I went through my first couple, and I was kind of stumbling. I was struggling. And so that's why I was so excited to come in to talk to you guys today and kind of pass on, one, my point of view as the student, and two, now that I'm on the other side, what employers look for. And the things we're going to share with you today, they're not complicated, they're not hard. Anyone can use these tricks to help you get a job and separate yourself. You're going to notice when you start going into career fairs, and maybe for the freshmen this doesn't apply to you right now, but I think getting exposed to this at an early age and hearing this and kind of maybe building a resume, or this is going to inspire you to join clubs so you have stuff to put on your resume, is really going to set you up for success for the rest of your life. And so I'm super excited to be here. Oh, Brian. But we're good. While he's getting started, I just kind of want to lay the overview of what we're going to cover today. And the main focus of this is kind of an interview process going over it. And at points, we're going to stop and kind of emphasize how you can apply this to the career fair for those students that are going there. And so we're going to have three main categories we're going to talk about today. The first one's preparing for an interview. The second one is the day of the interview. And on that section, we're going to discuss what to bring, how to execute, and what employers want to see. And then third, which I think a lot of people your age don't really think about, is post-interview. What are the steps that you need to do? And it's, now we're back on. Cool, there's the overview. And I don't want this to be like a normal class and like me lecturing to you guys. So I might call on you guys throughout the thing, get your point of view, and maybe make this a little bit more interactive. But the first section, preparing for an interview, and then Brian, if you want to the next slide. So I know you have a lot of technology at your fingertips. You know, you got the Chromebooks, you got your phones. And the first question you guys are probably asking, like, okay, where do I go to even find these jobs? And I mean, one, you guys should be super thankful that you guys are at this school. I mean, your school is making a huge effort to invest in you guys and to give you this career fair and to have us come in as a guest speaker. But the first step I would say is talk to your school's guidance counselors. I know we email guidance counselors all the time with our jobs. And I think if you guys make that, the first step is the hardest one, making that effort to find that job is kind of the first step that you're gonna have to do. And so talk to your school's guidance counselors. Go see if they get any emails about jobs, because I know a lot of people right now want the best and the brightest students, and they want hard workers. And that's kind of, it's tough to come around these days, and so everyone's fighting and scrapping to get the top candidates that they want. And so they're reaching out to schools, and they want to get people at an early age. And secondly, you guys have probably heard of these websites. I don't know how many of you are involved in them yet. But LinkedIn, Indeed, Handshake, you'll find out once you get to college. That's pretty much the college version of LinkedIn. And there's so many more that you can go find jobs. And I would even recommend, like, even for the freshmen, sophomores, and honestly anyone in this classroom, even though you're this young, it's never too early just to create a LinkedIn profile, just so you can have that set up, ready to go, because people are going to be searching your name. They're going to try to find stuff out about you, and that's just another thing on Google that's going to make you look good. And then if you have a company in mind that you know you want to work for, go to their website. They're going to have information on it. They're going to have contact information for you to fill out. The biggest thing is if you want to get a job, you're going to have to put that effort in. You're going to have to, you know what I mean, decide in your mind, okay, I want to invest in myself. I want to get better. Because whether you're applying to colleges, you're applying for another job, they're going to look at your previous experience, and this is really going to help you. And kind of going off that, I think, oh, Brian, go back 2 slides real quick. I think the big thing, too, I want to talk about on this slide is that second bullet point, where you're going to have these profiles on LinkedIn, Indeed, Handshake, and all these other sites. On top of that, the first thing we do when we get a resume in is we're going to go check your social media. We're going to go online, We're going to see what your Instagram looks like, your Facebook looks like, your Twitter, and then I'm kind of aging myself now. Apparently your TikTok too. I don't know if you guys are on that, but they're going to go on. So you want to make sure, kind of our rule of thumb we always give people, and I know you guys probably are just sitting there going, oh, he's just another like speaker kind of just preaching to us. But like your employers or your colleges where you're applying to, they're going to Google your name and they're going to find your Facebook. And the rule we always tell people, don't post something unless your grandma would approve it. So, you know what I mean? Don't like, I know you're young and you want to post stuff, but people are going to go look and they're going to find your post. And that's just another reflection on you. And so if you're trying to apply and get a full-time job, that's just another area that you just want to have cleaned up. And I was a senior in high school. I know like you want to do posts and stuff like that, but that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. I mean, as you can kind of see today, people are going to go back, find stuff, and that's always kind of going to be attached to you. So that's just another point too when you're kind of getting ready to apply for a job is go through your social media. Imagine you're the employer and you're sitting down going, okay, do I want Kevin to be a part of my company? He's going to reflect who we are, and if he's working for us and has our company name attached to him, we want to make sure social media sites are all clean and good. And Brian, if you want to go to the next slide. So the first part of kind of getting ready for applying for a job is building your resume. Just raise a hand. How many people have a resume ready right now? Nice. I think that's good. And I think you always want to be, you know, having that open, editing it, adding to stuff. I know for us it's huge. We look at the resume and that's kind of the first deciding factor. Before we even like read it, we're going to look at those critical words. We're going to see GPA. We want to see involvement in clubs, activities, and all that good stuff. And then so when we get it, this is kind of just some little tips. A lot of people save it as Microsoft Word. You really want to save it as a PDF because when you open it, you don't want your resume to be editable. You don't want anyone to maybe delete a line, do anything to it, and it just looks really professional. I know when I get a resume in and it's on a PDF, you're kind of like, okay, this person's like mature, they're ready to go, and it's a lot different than someone sending on Microsoft Word because you don't know what Microsoft Word program they have when they're opening it and all that. So that's another really big thing too. And then be specific. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself. I know a lot of times people with resumes, they come to us and they're like, I didn't put this on there because I just didn't want to include it, but like I'm captain of the football team and I'm a National Honor Society member. And it's like, no, this is your time to brag about yourself on your resume and to really separate yourself from everyone else. And I know for myself, I did a lot of sports in high school, so I was very competitive, and then I never really focused on a job or a resume in high school. And then a lot of you seniors are going to find this in the next couple months, is all of a sudden sports are going to come to an end. High school is going to come to an end, and you're going to find yourself in the real world, whether you're going to college or you're going straight into the workforce, and you're going to figure out that's your new competition. That's your football, that's your cross country. That's whatever your old competition is now separating yourself from everyone else. And that's your first chance for employers to see is your resume. So you want to make that look as best as possible. So don't be humble. Brag about yourself. This is your time to shine. And so that's super important in a resume. Don't hold like anything back. And then proofread it. That's the biggest thing too. We'll get people that send us resumes and they'll say, I have great attention to detail. I like have a high GPA and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they have a bunch of misspellings or they spelled our company name wrong. So ours is a little tricky. We're First Day School Supplies, and so it's number 1 ST. People spell out first. They'll do different variations. They'll call us School Supply Kit Company, and you want to make sure that everything's spelled right because one grammatical mistake on a resume honestly could have that recruiter take your resume and put it in the no stack. So you're judged at every step of the process. So far we've covered the social media aspect of it. That's going to be your first step of getting judged is what's on your social media, how is that reflecting of yourself? And then the second is your resume. So once they see that resume, if you pass the social media and they decide to look at your resume, that's your second judgment that they're going to go through and they're going to want to see that if you meet their level that they want to hire. And then Brian, if you want to go to the next slide. You can find any of this stuff online. There's no excuses on resume prep, any of that. I Googled this in 30 seconds and found it. This is from Indeed. They give you a really nice breakdown of how you should have your resume formatted. And it's pretty basic stuff. So at the top, you have your name and contact information, which you'd be surprised that we see a lot of high schoolers applying well, they'll give us their name, no phone number or email. And then we're stuck with, okay, how do we get a hold of them now? And then secondly, a summary or objective. This is, you don't see a lot, and I think if you guys could add this to your resume, for those people that do have resumes, it'll really help you stand out. A summary could just be a little brief description, 2 to 3 sentences about you, kind of what makes you special. It lets you kind of put into words, or your objective. So a lot of times we see, I'm a third-year accounting student at Ohio State. My goal is to obtain a summer internship for the summer of 2022. I want to gain leadership experience, and you can kind of state what you're looking for. And I think that's small. It's another example of something small that you can put into your resume that will really help separate yourself. And then below it, you have your professional history. And so this, I will say, might be tough for high schoolers. But, how's it going? Great. But I think if you look at what you're involved in, these days everyone's involved in so much. And so if you're in high school, put your, what sports teams you're on, what clubs you're involved with, and stuff like that. And I think if you're a freshman, sophomore, and you're sitting here right now like, hey, I'm not involved in much, I think this is a nice wake-up call to say, hey, maybe that next school newsletter that goes out and there's a club that's looking for more members, join it. Get involved in school. Employers, everyone's going to be at school with a high GPA. That's going to be your basic kind of resume. What's going to separate is when we see captain of the chess team, National Honor Society student, all these different things. We actually just had an interview with a young man yesterday that goes to school at Bowling Green studying accounting, and he loved boxing. And so he started a boxing club at Bowling Green. And that's just another example when we're looking at resumes. We're going to see he took the initiative to start a club. Like, he's something special. And I think when you see those club reminders going out or a sports team, get involved. It's just another example that you can work with a team of people, and it just looks good on a resume. And then below it, you're going to have your education, which at this point, it's going to be really just your high school. But for you seniors that are getting into colleges, add your college where you're going. That's something that, you know, I mean, you worked hard for, you went through the application process and you got. So I think that's huge. Like, when you guys go, for those students that are going to the career fair, is update your resume so you can see your college. Don't give them the resume from 3 months ago. That's the easy thing to do. Maybe the week before, sit down and look at your resume and be, okay, has anything changed? What can I add on here for this career fair that's going to help separate myself from everyone else? And then below, skills. So if you have any like leadership skills, anything that you want to describe, that's where you put that on the resume. And then it's true, it's pretty optional, the awards, hobbies, and interests. What we see on that is a lot of seniors putting like scholarships that they've received or any school awards that they won at like an assembly. And that's just another thing that's going to help impress recruiters along the way. Brian, you want to go to the next slide? Cool. And then this right here, I'll say if you're going to pay attention to anything I say, will be the most important thing. A lot of people don't do this. And this is a small, easy thing that will help you get whatever job you're looking to get into. And it's called the cover letter. For us, it's required. We don't take an application unless they have a cover letter. And I know friends that have graduated and gone on to get really good jobs that have attached cover letters, and that's what helps separates them. And it's super easy. It's 3 to 4 paragraphs long. And then what you should do before you start your cover letter is sit down and do a little research on the company, which, I mean, you guys know how easy it is to pick up your phone. You can Google, read articles, and within 5 minutes, you can really figure out what the company's about, find maybe keywords that describes the company. And what this cover letter is going to do is when you start writing it, they're going to sit down and go, wow, he actually took the time to do research. He knows about our company. And then you're going to make a connection in the cover letter of why you should work there, what makes you special. It kind of gives you on top of your resume another addition to verbally, or to write out how you would be a good fit there. And people get creative in it. This is what you're gonna apply for jobs, and people are gonna have the same resumes. They're all gonna look the same. You're gonna be involved in sports, clubs, high GPAs, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden we can get a cover letter as kind of that tiebreaker where we're gonna go, wow, this person is stating our company's mission statement. They know our core values, and they're applying how they have those same values, and it's really, really critical. And then, yeah, it can really set you apart from other people. And that's the main thing, too, you're going to hear me say throughout this whole presentation, is when you're interviewing, it's a competition. You're in a competition. And this is just another step in that competition that's going to help you beat someone else and get the job. Brian, you want to go to the next slide? And then this is another thing too, I think a lot of people don't do in advance is interview prep. People just go, oh, I'm just going to go into the interview and I'm going to wing it. And I'm going to, I'll just answer the questions. This is going to be easy. I was like that. I was a freshman at Ohio State and I had a phone interview and I thought it was just going to be a get to know you call, super basic, really easy. And all of a sudden they started drilling me with really hard questions. And then I was on the phone, I started like breathing really heavy and I started doing like, I don't even remember what I said. I like blacked out and I did not get that job. And what I kind of learned from that moment was sitting down. You can go online, you can find basic interview questions. And I mean, you already probably know what most of those are. What's your biggest strength? What's your biggest weakness? Give me a time you overcame an obstacle. And I know those sound super easy, but if you've never said those out loud and your first time saying it is in an interview, it's not going to come out perfect. And when you go into an interview, you want to go in there prepared, you want to be polished and professional, and you want to execute. And so my advice for interview prep would be find friends and family. If you have an older brother or sister, sit down with them, have them ask you those questions, and just say it out loud. And your first time might be rough. You might sound not professional, and you might not like your answer, but as you keep saying it and refining it, you're going to notice that you're going to improve and get better. So then when you go to your final interview, you're going to be ready to go and you're going to get the job. And then even the last option, I did this a lot through my interview prep. I would literally just take out my iPhone and I would record myself, and then I would get to hear myself and I'd be like, ooh, gosh, I didn't like that, or I'd take notes. I like this part, make sure I add this to the main one, remove this, and then I would say it again and say it again. The main thing is repetition for interview prep. Just find those basic questions, and you can go online. I know Indeed has like the top 10 toughest questions. Monster.com has a bunch too. If you just Google tough interview questions, go tackle those first, and then everything else is going to be easy. And the biggest thing I can tell you guys is, you're getting this right now in high school. There's seniors in college. There's people that have graduated that don't have jobs that don't hear this lesson today. And then so if you want to go to the next slide. And so the day of the interview, so you passed all the tests so far. So far, social media, clean. They want to move you on. Your resume met all the criteria. You're involved in enough stuff. You had a high GPA. They read your cover letter, and your cover letter was so good that it moved you on to the next step, and you beat out everybody else you're competing against. But now they invited you to actually come in person for an interview. What do you need to bring? You should bring your copies of your resumes and cover letter. Even if you've submitted it, a lot of times what we'll see is people will submit their resumes and cover letters online, and then they show up for the actual interview. And then the people that are interviewing them don't have it. And so it kind of puts them at a disadvantage because you have all this stuff that makes you special. You want to make sure the people interviewing you can see that. So always bring way more, like I'd say if you're meeting with 5 people, bring 15 resumes. Who cares? It's 10 extra pieces of paper. So bring your resume and cover letters to hand out at every interview. And a big thing too is bring a Padfolio. And I don't know if you guys know what that is. All it is, it's a leather, pretty much it's a leather notebook with notebook paper on the inside. And it's a real professional look. And then at any time in the interview too, you can write down notes. So if they say something that really stands out to you that you maybe want to bring up later, you can write it down. It just gives you that ability. And then too, it makes you look that you're engaged in the interview, and that you're paying attention and that you really care. And then also with it, it allows you to pre-write general notes for yourself. Maybe if you practice those tough interview questions, you can have your answers down because you're going to be nervous when you go into an interview. I don't care how well you prepare, all that stuff. You're gonna go in there, you're gonna have butterflies in your stomach, but the way I look at it, that's good. That means you care, that means you're interested in the job. So just take those nerves and just channel them the right way, and then you're gonna do great. But I think that's what's really nice when you come with all your answers kind of pre-written. If you get stuck, you can just look down straight at your notebook and you can kind of pick up maybe on your biggest strength and can kind of describe it better. And then Brian, if you want to go to the next slide. Big thing too, what to wear. I can't stress this one enough. If we're having final interviews and people come in, and I don't care what job they're applying for, if they come in with jeans and a t-shirt, automatic like red flag. Like you're judged at every step of your interview process. Always overdress your job. I don't care if you're applying for a full-time job at a finance company, or if you're applying to work at a restaurant or like McDonald's. Anywhere you go, you want to overdress for the job. And I know a lot of times people will be like, I'm going to wear a button-down shirt. I don't know if I should wear a tie or wear a jacket. If you have that decision where you're kind of iffy, overdo it. You can never overdress for a job. You're just going to stand out. It's going to show that you care, that you're interested. So I would challenge you guys, when you have that career fair, when's the career fair again? It's
April 1st.
Okay, April 1st, dress up for that day of school. Maybe treat it like your picture day. And wear a nice shirt. Stand out. Don't look like you just rolled out of bed and came in. Because those employers, even at that recruitment day, that's your first time getting judged. That's your first impression. So you want to come looking professional, and kind of we lay it out here. You can find all this online. You want to wear a suit for guys. You have your picture on the left. Girls, that's your picture on the right. And so you can go online too, and you can find many different examples. I'm not like the best fashion guy, but just you can get a suit. And I even know there's companies that will loan people suits for interviews. So there's really no excuse why you can't dress up for an interview. And then, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide. And then, so now you're at the interview, and then how to answer questions. This is huge. This is kind of all that prep work you put into it. This is where you're going to come out and you're going to show the company that you prepared and that you really want to be there and you really want to get the job. And so I kind of list out two of the basic ones. What's your biggest strength and what's your biggest weakness? You're going to get asked. And I really think these are ones, if you don't prepare for, it's going to separate yourself. People are going to know. They're going to be like, okay, he's just talking off his hip right now. Let's just go. Hey, does anyone want to share maybe their biggest strength, how they would answer it? I'm going to randomly call on someone. What would you say your biggest strength is?
Probably when I won't focus on something, I really focus in on it.
Okay, no, I think that's a great strength. And then how I would coach you up in that situation is list your strength and then immediately give a follow-up answer of a time that you've used that to help overcome a situation. So when you're in an interview and we go, hey, what's your biggest strength? People go, oh, I'm a hard worker. I mean, that could be true. They could be a hard worker, but like you need to give them something more to work with. So how you kind of prepare that answer is be like, what's your biggest strength? Oh, I'm a hard worker. I was on the basketball team and I was JV for my first 3 years. And going into my senior year, I attended basketball camps. I invested time. I was the first one in the gym, the last one to leave. I was voted team captain then my senior year, and I led the league in scoring, whatever it might be. But when you list your strength and give that follow-up story, you're just continuing the conversation in the interview, and then it doesn't leave the interviewer kind of going, okay, like, do you want to give us an example of that? It shows that you can talk, you can communicate to the employer, which is huge. We see that all the time, where people just give us one-word answers, and it's kind of like how, when you guys are in a conversation, someone gives you maybe a text, and they go, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you guys respond to, okay? That's like the same thing for us when we give ask those questions, and people go, toughness. It's like, I almost want to hit them back with a text, okay. But that's the biggest advice I can give you, is the strength and weakness. Anything you're listing about yourself, have a story, an example ready to go, and people are going to think, wow, like, the students at Berea really are impressive. They're ready to go. And then look engaged. So I broke down into 3 main points. Active listening. Me and Brian do this on all of our interview calls. Imagine if you're talking to me and I'm just sitting there like this. I mean, you could be engaged looking like this, or like this. You could be listening, you could be hearing everything, but what an interviewer wants to see, like, look engaged, look like you're listening, you're processing the information, nod your head, give them active engagement. It's gonna make their conversations flow better, and 2, they're gonna look and be like, wow, this person really wants to be here. They're just not sitting through this. And all this advice on this slide, I would say too, you're gonna see more. A lot of companies are going to virtual interviews. Same thing, you're on a virtual interview, dress up, put a shirt on. Once the interview's over, just change back into whatever you want to wear. But show the recruiter on those virtual ones that you took the time to dress up and that you're taking this process serious. Second thing kind of goes with that active listening is eye contact. You want to be looking them in the eyes and you want to be engaged and having that conversation. I know you could be shy and that might be your personality, but just for that interview, break through and just make that eye contact. It just really helps with the active listening because there's nothing worse than talking to someone and they're just like looking away. It's terrible. And then the third point for the engagement is use your portfolio. Take notes when they're talking about maybe who they're looking to hire, or if you ask a question, they give you an answer. Take notes. It's just another engagement that's really going to separate yourself. And I can tell you, we rarely see these points, and that's why we wanted to come in today to kind of preach them to you guys, because a lot of times you'll just go into these interviews and you won't do the advice that we're kind of sharing with you guys, and that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not like forcing you guys to use this. It's just you probably won't get that job. And if you just do these simple things, it's really going to help separate yourself from all the other candidates. And then lastly, questions to ask. You always want to come prepared with questions to ask. And have those pre-written. You might come up with some in the middle of an interview. If they say something and then you have a question, yeah, use that one. But always come with those questions pre-written. And some basic questions that I think Brian came up with these is, what does a day-to-day look like at your company? And so you get a better feel. Because also while you're interviewing, you're presenting yourself to them that you want to work there, but at the same time, you want to make sure it's a good fit for you. You don't want to go through an interview process and not know the job that you're going to be doing. You want to like where you work. And so that's why I think that's a great question to ask. And then, what are the company's values and mission? And then that's just, you will probably already know that, but it's just a nice question to have prepared to show that you're engaged and that you're curious about the company. And the final question, which I think is great, is what do you look for in employees? And then what they're going to do is they're going to go out and they're going to give you an answer. They're going to say, we want employees that are loyal, that are hardworking, that get in early, stay late. And then once you hear those values that they're looking for, characteristics, go straight into examples. Go, hey, I'm a hard worker. I was voted Employee of the Month at Dairy Queen last summer when I was there. And you can kind of break that down, and then you just made a connection with what they're looking for and how you fulfilled that. Everything you're going to see is there's a need, and you guys are filling that need, and that's a great question to ask, and you can come ready to go. Brian, if you want to go to the next one. And yeah, this is kind of where we wanted to talk from our point of view, what we're looking for in employees. And the biggest thing is this first point is a caring relationship versus a transactional relationship. I'll talk about the transactional relationship first. That's your main priority for this company is clocking in, clocking out. The minute you're done, you don't care. And you're not fully invested. And I think anything that you guys are involved in, you've seen this. If you're not fully invested in a class, if you're not fully invested in a sports team, a club, whatever it might be, you're not going to succeed. And what we look for is a caring relationship. We want people that, one, want to be there, two, have our backs, and we know they're going to work hard for us. And so that's the biggest thing too. My biggest takeaway is when you get the job too, carry these points over, that caring relationship versus transactional. And then honestly, the second bullet point, you'd be kind of surprised. We just want mature adults. I think this might be different for the freshmen, sophomores, but I'd say the juniors and seniors, when you're applying for jobs, keep your parents out of it. And I know that might be hard. You might have like the typical helicopter parents or whatever it might be, but it just kind of is another hurdle. I know when we're dealing with recruiting and parents call us and go, oh, hey, my Johnny Smith is really smart. They want to work here. We're like, okay, have Johnny email us, and we want the relationship between us and him, because that goes back to we want him to want to be there. We don't want the parents wanting the kids to be there. So that's another huge point too. And I'll just say other characteristics, kind of just common things that we've talked about in this presentation. We just want people that, one, are nice, friendly, and because the biggest thing we look at too when we're hiring people is like, all right, we hire the best and the brightest students. So each person we're adding into this pool, we want to make sure they're all getting surrounded by the same people. So we look and go, okay, this person's super smart, very impressive resume, but they're not that friendly. They're kind of short, they're rude. Do we really want to put that with the rest of our team? Could they be a harm to the team? And so that's another thing to keep in mind is you want to be friendly, outgoing, because they're going to be evaluating, one, your resume and all that stuff, but then two, okay, when they get the job, how are they going to affect our team? Our team's operating perfectly right now. We only want pluses. We don't want minuses. And then Brian, can we get the next one? Post-interview. This is huge too. Send a thank you note you'd be surprised. No one really does this. And it's such a classy, nice move that will set yourself apart from the interview process. And so we even had a young lady, she was a senior at Highland High School last year, came back the next day and delivered handwritten thank you letters. Immediately right away, we're like, wow, that's so impressive. We gave her the offer, I think, the next day. We called her and gave it to her on the spot. And then we put her into leadership roles, and it really kind of accelerated her career with us. And so no matter what, whenever you're doing an interview and you get home, the minute you get home, just sit down, send a thank you letter, and kind of we break it down a little bit how to do the thank you letter. Mention something specific that you talked about, because we can tell when there's like generic thank you letters. Like, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. And it's like, okay, they're sending this to everybody. If maybe you talked about the company's mission statement, or you talked about how they got hired, mention that in there so they can connect. Oh wow, they listened, and two, they connected it, and they're writing this personal note. And then it also just gives you another chance to reaffirm why you're a good fit for that job. So then at the end, you can kind of bring up that specific moment and thank them for their time. And then two, be like, as you're going through this selection process, I just want to reiterate that I think I'd be a great fit here because I'm hardworking, I'm detail-oriented, and it's just another chance to sell yourself. And then this is the second to last point, send separate notes. If you met with 4 people, send 4 different notes to each individual person. Don't clump them into one email and just send one general thank you. I think if you're going to take that extra step and write a thank you letter, do the individual route. And then 2, going back to the actual day of the interview, if you don't have their contact information beforehand, if you bring that pad folio, you can ask them before they leave, hey, can I get your email, name and email, and then you can write it down. So then immediately when you get home, you have their contact information, and you don't have to go online or call people to get it. And then this is post thank you note. There's going to be a period of time where they're reviewing all other applicants. Don't be afraid to follow up with the decision process. Maybe set a note, set a reminder on your phone for 5 days later, a week later, whatever you think the right time is. To be like, hey, I just wanted to follow up on the decision process, and if there's anything else I can answer. It just shows, once again, that you're engaged, that you care about the job, and then it's just a really nice professional touch that not a lot of high school students or even college students do. And it's just really, the whole thing shows that you care. I mean, I hope if you guys saw one common theme today, all these things we're trying to talk to you about is just little things that are super easy to do. I mean, if you went through and practiced your interview, made your cover letter, resume, you're maybe looking at like 30 minutes, 45 minutes most of prep time. And then Brian, can we go to the next slide? And then, so that's kind of it for our presentation. And I know we kind of talked more today about applying for jobs, interviewing, kind of the employer's point of view. But I kind of want to add a couple other things. So for that April 1st, that career fair, I would recommend kind of prepping for that too. Find out what employers are going to be there. Kind of maybe come up with a stacked ranking of where you want to work on that list. And let's just say 10 companies are coming. Maybe go to the company that's ranked 10th on your list, go to them first, and you get a little practice. You get to go up there, you get to shake the employer's hand, talk to them, and that one might not go well. But hey, it's your 10th pick. Then go to your ninth selection. Go there, it's going to get better, and by the time you get to the first one, you're going to be warmed up, you're going to be comfortable, and you're going to be ready to go. And I would recommend for that day too, having a resume ready to hand out to everybody. And if you really, really want to separate yourself, if you know like we're going to be at the career fair and you want to apply for our internship program, come with a cover letter ready to go, and you'll be set. But yeah, that's it for our presentation. Any questions? Was that the bell to leave?
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Thank you guys.